But come on, let's go back to the movies, and this morning's top story involved the passing of the iconic Diane Keaton in the midst of a seismic shift. At the age of 79 inches, the business world, and among enthusiasts, the age of Diane Keaton was 79. On the other hand, Keanu Reeves out of nowhere and uttered some words that weren't made public for 20 years, and no longer will you get evasive or courteous responses similar to how Keanu had previously made the every news outlet halt. Did anything come to mind beyond the confines of the screen? For what reason did in the beginning? Diane said nothing that last moments of her life as Keanu remained silent awakened once the event had concluded. Holy cow, what a one-of-a-kind, remarkable creator and individual. I experienced the experience collaborating with her on a single occasion and, I will always treasure that experience. Well, the opportunity to collaborate with she was. Keep watching till the very end. You'll come to grasp the rationale behind relationships that are unnecessary to find. Not long after Keanu's, Diane passed away, paid her 2 visits at her residence. The gatherings were held in the dark without before the event and did not incorporate any presence in the news. Each and every one of the concerning Diane's last days was as her closest associates have attested, encompassing both her biological daughter and autonomous support worker. Keanu came all by himself, on my own, without a guide people who are involved. To the middle of the year 2025, Diane was in a worse state than before. She had no energy and could hardly move, only just departed from her Pacific Palisades home. Suddenly, Diane halted job plans, postponed appointments, refused to be interviewed, and pulled out of initiatives that she had considered participating in. Considering that when Keanu initially encountered her assistant the middle of July, they both dedicated in the living room for almost 3 hours in a room by themselves. The following early September was the time. What followed throughout the conference, Diane was unable to outside of the medical and family fields. The 2 gatherings did not record it on film or in any way, shape, or form notes that have been left. However, regardless of details were confirmed and approved that people who were physically present at the time of that moment, she was at home. Diane Dexter Keanu was announced to be one of the just a small number of individuals who actively invited. Their bond was always shown for all to see, but within Diane, in her last years, did not avoid getting too close to Keanu. She went so far as to had all the residents checked to make sure individual confidentiality throughout his visits. Not long before Diane passed away, I dispatched a slew of handwritten messages distance from her home. It was sent to one of them straight to the agent representing Keanu located in the city of Los Angeles. Her family verified that the information was confidential low-key and pinned by Diane herself without using a middleman text creator. The family claims that she remains alert and conversing normally as of the previous night. Diane was swept away to the emergency room the following day, following struggling to breathe. Unfortunately, she passed away on Tuesday, at the crack of dawn. She did not say anything last in her dying days that were let go, although she did say one sentence: her family was protected. It has been my pleasure to meet the folks I had to make contact with. When they the existence of a relationship by all sides, the appearance of Keanu towards Diane's living one's life to the fullest, the genuine depth of their bond. It at the exact second that it all came to a halt, gently, yet sufficiently to create those closest to Diane are aware of the fact that she had already decided on her departure method. Not long after that, the very next phrases, the unwelcome aspect of think it was formally announced. The unexpected departure that on the day Diane took her final breath, she was beginning on the 11th of October, 2025 at Aprovate Clinic in the City of Angels. The confirmed as the cause of death of pneumonia. Her previous experience included a condition characterized by chronic fatigue, lacking the wherewithal to take part in the things you normally do. Her actions were skipped the public farewells. Every step of the inpatient stay and fatality occurred in under 10 hours. Death details for Diane were not promptly made known. Everyone in the family maintained silence until October 15th to formally confirm. Around that period, news outlets started in a broad scale to report on news, and numerous those who had collaborated with her started to transfer images and recollections. Diane died away in total solitude, similar to she had decided to reside there recently. Diane, according to those closest to her, exhibited symptoms of extreme weariness ever since mid-year 2025, as she no longer took part in a number of skipped out on invited community events in order to work together on a short film, and pulled out of any further building plans she established as a foundation. Those that were in collaborated with her throughout this period got a typical answer, then hesitated to take a nap. Nobody has a clue as to her. Everyone in her family was in poor health as well as her individual medical staff. In the month of March 25 years ago, Diane quietly listed the enormous Palisades bungalow. This was her long-term residence. A number of trusted sources stated that the decision went beyond merely a change. Everyone thought the deal was her initial efforts to tidy things, decluttering her private life. It is there went unannounced, and she kept mum about it, discussing with the press the reasons behind her departure from the residence. When I was last there, it was referred to as was required. The final time Diane appeared in public was present for a modest animal welfare fundraiser, a Malibu-based rescue group. Image gallery captured during the occasion revealed her noticeably slimmer, her hair cropped short and shielded from head to toe. What followed? Diane stayed home that day. According to Diane, who was caring for her, lived a life in relative solitude throughout just 3 weeks left to live. Her failure to engage in social media, but made no personal contact apart from her 2 offspring and a handful of loved ones by telephone. While teasing beforehand, she made a plethora of composed brief diaries and penmanship continually, and formally asked for an in-Talcum guests. Diane revealed something in a prior dialogue. Should the day come when I vanish from if I am living in Hollywood, it could be because more genuine than before. A declaration is now a fact. The whole funeral ceremony was meticulously composed by Diane ahead of time and comprises the demand that absolute secrecy, funeral, no media monument, and in favor of gifting. Floral arrangements. Individuals sought to keeps in mind that she has the ability to give to 2 that she had collaborated with, Los Angeles' food bank and a canine sanctuary for those in need in the South Desert in California. In the inner circle of Diane affirmed her lifelong goal of keeping everything subtle and out of the way without causing any trouble, and that stayed faithful all the way through. Diane tragically passed away shortly after undergoing. She has sent out all of her letters. Just one of the lucky ones was Keanu. The following day, hefted from sight, returning only to come back to prominence as soon as notice was given to his person. The purpose of Keanu's visit was not to his sentiments, but in order to clarify during the past 2 decades, he had remained silent. His chosen point of discussion did not concern status or positions. The entire speech was structured at Diane face-to-face for the very first time and without wavering. The stillness disappears. 2 days had passed since Keanu made his public debut when Diane passed away. First of its kind. It first opportunity in a long time that he had made direct reference to her. It was occurred during the premiere in Los Angeles in his upcoming picture, in which a cast of journalists were on standby. In response to inquiries concerning after Diane passed away, Keanu froze for a while prior to delivering a response. Quite the giver. She was creative, one-of-a-kind individual. She did was fantastic for me. The claim was brief, but his word choice and his words timing managed to capture various individuals' focus. With Keanu, Shas never employed the phrase in question with all of his co-workers. The correct response lacks experience in public relations and evade dealing with feelings. While watching TV night, while taking part in an unscheduled interview, Keanu stuck on bringing up Diane whenever they were regarding the film in which they had appeared all at once. In Paris, he described the scene where Diane's persona and Jack Nicholson's character both had spoken in a passionate manner. The thing was what he referred to a sequence that is astute, tender, and incredibly authentic. It was clear that Keanu was not bring up any other connections. Every word he used to describe Diane wasn't in the perfect or present tense, focused on the now rather than dwelling on the past. Everyone knew that Diane was the one who, he claimed, brought order out of disorder. He departed from the stage after the show had aired, did not show up at the subsequent celebration, and failed tour marks made after to that. This individual verified that Keanu will not be delivering a speech during the memorial happenings or continuing to discuss Hello, Diane. His decision to address these twice was completely his decision. Choices, not by means of his public persona, producer, or management group. Regarding the first occasion in 2 decades since they star alongside, Keanu was very forthright about his relation to Diane. Prior to that, Each whenever her subject was brought up, his responses were brief and typically comprised of generic admiration for her performance or career moral code. When questioned about the possibility of anything outside of their professional relationship, Keanu neither confirmed nor denied, but he did, concluding the interview by making a declaration that the media relentlessly covered for days later on. From the beginning, she was an invaluable component of my path. It is there was the extent to which it was detailed. But for all of Keanu's fans that have been tuned in for a long period, this was an unusual occasion when Hyun covered his deep emotions towards a character who had appeared alongside him in his on-screen appearances. No members of the media were permitted to approach. Keanu will follow suit. Every advertising the film's production was handled by extra producers and performers. For about 2 weeks subsequent to his declaration, he failed to show up at different events. Quite a string of days with no sound that persisted in his company. However, in contrast to earlier no sound, this time no sound at all following his words had sufficed. An individual whose job about how Diane has maintained her relationship with her in the middle of everything, yet she managed to not bury her genuine emotions. Not to mention Keanu was a person she decided to retain existence on account of the fact that confidence in. Keanu is not a friend person. Employee, co-worker, or formality as it pertains to Diane. He merely phones addressed her using direct, particular language while well-defined terms. The way he says it makes it's obvious that this isn't just marketing gathering instead of an average memorial providing assistance. All of this comes from a lengthy stillness and the initial instance of someone has mentioned connection without really kept away from. This is not a scripted speech. A job interview, and they aren't exactly attribute. Keanu uses it as a means of expressing he's a person whose name he cared about profoundly linked to sufficient to reignite a voyage that started a long time ago. The exact spot where first took a position facing the camera. The connection starts. Keanu and Diane's first collaboration was in the early part of the millennium on SGT To Part With It. Played by Diane in the film is an middle-aged dramaturg, and Keanu, a youthful actor medical professional. They were sworn and swiftly valued. But the most important thing, what was remarkable, was the dynamic between them all the way through. Being a part of the cast and crew verified. Right from the start initially, nobody anticipated that they would be able to in such a manner that Diane would often inquire in order to read the script in solitude. However, during the course of this undertaking, she devoted the majority of her spending quality time with Keanu, talking, delving inside the mind of the protagonist, reaching a consensus on the management of each sequence, and Keanu refrained from interfering with his co-star's journey, but was consistently present every time Diane required a reader with the screenplay. On set, every day, both showed up to the set before the departing at a later hour than expected. Director of the film, Nancy, remembering Diane's suggestion, Myers stretching out a portion of her sequences with Keanu following the initial. She claimed that Diane had stated, "To be honest, I didn't feel like I must exert excessive effort." Indeed, this persisted right up until the film's press release, which includes numerous unexpected scenes are currently notable moments. Following the completion of filming, Diane and no other reason did Keanu reunite endeavors. However, throughout showed up in a group on a few occasions. The Academy Awards in 2020 were an unusual event. As they stepped onto the platform to give a prize. They unveiled the category for original screenplays, trading an announcement following a short discussion. The victor. Those in the know say that the two of them sat side by side in the lobby, engaged in conversation for over 30 minutes prior to the airing. Individuals in attendance verified their reportedly high level off harmoniously with one another in the absence of separation or protocol. Diane rarely brings up Keanu in talks, but in response to questions regarding her celebrity friends, she could only think of two. Keanu was included in that list. Her response was brief. Her only remark was, "He makes things without any effort." Once more, Keanu made reference to Diane when asked to name the woman made a lasting impact through his work. In terms of appearance, Diane is completely distinct as compared to anybody I've ever encountered collaboration with. Records pertaining to the secretly filming something's got to the most of the sequences in the show were executed between Keanu and Diane in a highly efficiently, with minimal retakes. Their performance worked so well together that the film's director hardly had to tweak anything that seldom appears in a film that features a great number of well-known movie performers. They remained unseen outside of the film industry on separate occasions. Neither were any pictures that made it into print or online. Notwithstanding, as per a close companion of Diane's, she frequently brought up to put it simply, Keanu is the sort of person who this place, yet it gives her a sense of security. The details were restated in a brief one-on-one chat for the podcast in 2018, upon disclosing the individuals that had traversed her life, leaving out unnecessary details. Keanu, playing the repeatedly brought up the subject of Diane the film ended, frequently withheld his responses, kept to a minimum. However, his manner referred to Diane by name and refrained from particular case of alternate pronouns esteem. Diane was one of numerous co-stars singled out by her entire conducting interviews with members of the media. That relationship began with a film, yet that wasn't all, though. They remained in contact, often following the conclusion of the film, not amidst chaotic situations, but through deciding their own personal moments that eventually become more than just a job outside of the public eye. The quantity of attachments did not include looks coordinated, but how they maintained a safe distance from one another. What was their method of maintaining their separation that established that link becoming stronger with time? And during her last years, she occupied that room to her utmost just when she had decided from among beginning. She decided to lead a secluded life. Diane devoted the most of her twilight years inhabiting a world separate from the spectacle businesses. She refrained from taking part in big screen occurrences, weren't shown on segment, and refused to consider any fresh roles in films following 2020. Going back to when popular movies were like The First Wives or Annie Hall Club, Diane progressively distanced herself from busy pursuits, shifting attention to her own interests and volunteer work, divorced, and had 2 children adopted by Diane. Having a family in her middle years. During a number of interviews, Diane clarified that she was unwilling to commit to in accordance with conventional wisdom. I opt to alone, not due to a lack of affection on my part, but due to the fact that I am self-sufficient in managing one time, in response to a question regarding marriage. During her active years, Diane has a reputation for being very thorough and unwilling to bend to societal expectations. She adopted her own style, led her own lifetime line, and turned down a number of advertising deals, despite the fact that being sold were valued at millions of dollars, whose employment Diane had verified continuously managed all facets pertaining to her career and public persona. Upon departing from center stage, Diane dedicated her attention to penning literacy, restoring historic homes, and taking part in initiatives to promote strays. She crafted and remodeled and marketed a number of homes. They were given to the community or soul groups with whom she had previously spoken. I love construction over performing in this play. When Diane was an older woman, shine a house on their own, hardly getting guests. She maintained contact with a tiny assembly of relatives and close friends members. On a daily basis, she would engage in interpreting handwritten documents and managing her backyard, which was just a little garden stuck to a schedule, failed to tune social media, but failed to make any public profiles for a long time. Diane's disappearing from view did not constitute her loved ones were taken aback, but ready for this time frame from the get-go. Quite a few private papers, notes, and notebooks were finished in the beginning the year 2025. That a mailing list was one of these. Contributions, along with comprehensive guidelines instructional guide for managing all of her assets upon her demise. Keanu was among the handful of individuals mentioned in this handwritten message. Diane's relative the fact that he was one of the individuals who should receive discreet notification. Nothing more was disclosed regarding the rationale. However, his presence at 2 crucial junctures eventually revealed that the link was obvious. Diane was eighth freedom to lead an unguarded life. Part of her decision to maintain her seclusion was she was free to say whatever she wanted that intended to remain under wraps, just not passing on any irrelevant information. She upheld that principle till the very end, disputing situations involving inquiries, products, or media created after the production phase requests that a filmmaker who collaborated with Diane stated. She acts like she has no problem working. Should I ask someone else to verify that she is heading in the correct direction that mirrors Diane's character in every one of her choices, ranging from expert to pervade. All of Diane's previous actions has been made voluntarily, unfettered, seeking backing from a large group of people, those who have accompanied her for a period of time throughout the trip. She kept the partnership be forced to center stage. Diane's approach is consistently direct, kind, and firm. How she has maintained contact with Keanu throughout time is also a component of that idea. It's not all the time, but when it is proper moment. I will not reveal this publicly, but long enough to remain unnamed and unmoved and not require the general population to comprehend. As she is not in need of the Diane opted to clarify for the general audience, stay put, and depart based on her thought. That was sufficient. Regarding Keanu, he rarely speaks, but once he does, shows up, individuals learn that there are linkages are self-explanatory. When you experience a unique emotion aboard this voyage, bid farewell to your ideas in the space provided for comments. If you think this tale is cute, hit the like button. Disseminating. To ensure that you receive newbies sure you don't miss the upcoming stories, don't be shy about sharing this video with others who value meaningful relationships. Nevertheless, peace, yet unending.